chat to them. They can't chat to them. Like
Welcome one and all to another amazing night here in Tranquility.
We absolutely are in for a treat of a match here tonight, no question about it.
And the grenade from Pompu, eliminating everybody on the field.
Now between something as well is going to be a fly stab with that buff them, and it's going to be huge. Fighting 3.
The double kill with the Bastion ulti? Alright, I see you guys.
For B-Well, look to find a stick there, finds the stick, they find two with it!
Those who find the picks will save the fight, and they don't really need to save what they've already won.
And Cam with the 4-man punch off the map!
Experience tranquility.
Hi everyone, welcome to another week of Tranquility. Tonight we're casting a match from Discord tier, which is our Diamond tier. My name is Ashen and I'm joined tonight by Willow.
Hello, welcome.
Alright Willow, pretty excited for this match tonight. We actually get to see some of our top 2 teams from the Discord tier, which are Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros. They had a really strong run through stage 1 of Tranquility, coming out at first and second in their group play. And right now we are in stage 2, and so we're going to see some of these top teams fighting it off.
Yeah, in these kind of early entrance weeks into the next stage, you're not necessarily worrying too much about your overall standing at the moment. Both these teams, I think, lost their previous matches, currently at that -1, but it's just -1, right? We're only in the second matches. Who really worries too much about that? I think both of them are going to be coming in refreshed, excited, ready to get into it. Speaking of, aren't we both making our caster debuts for Tranquility Gaming? Ashen here, making your very first casting debut overall.
Yes,
coming in on play-by-play. How are you feeling?
Thank you so much. So I will tell you guys, I have been around the scene for a long time, but mostly as a player and recently as a coach. And tonight is actually my first time casting, so everyone please bear with me. But super excited to have Willow here as my partner. Willow, I know you definitely have a lot of experience, and so we'll definitely be leaning onto you tonight.
Well, a lot is maybe stretching it, but yeah, you know what? No, I'm the master of this. I've been here for years. Everyone knows me, right? I'm familiar in all scenes, of course.
Of course.
I believe you've done a little bit of homework on Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros as well. Would you like to share the fruits of your labor? What kind of compositions do you think they're going to be running out here as we go over to map 1?
Definitely. So I got a chance to speak to some of the captains and the coaches before this match, just to hear a little bit about how they're feeling. One really cool fact is that Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros, they're actually pretty frequent script. They're very familiar, very friendly with each other, but I think they may be pulling out some different comps, so it'll be very cool to see them go head-to-head tonight.
Yeah, I believe Phantom Wind mentioned that they would be running, it was a lot of the Reinhardt and the Sigma in particular, wasn't it? Which have been kind of very strong compositions that we've seen in Overwatch League meta recently. Maybe with some of these Sombra reworks, we might be a little scared of it, but Los Rancheros seem to be favoring the Junker Queen, I believe, which will be interesting to see how they play into each other. I feel like those are 3 kinds of compositions that almost rock, paper, scissors another. So, and also, no Orisa in the mix. Fantastic. As soon as we get into map 1, obviously on Nepal, we'll get to see what exactly they're running. Do you have a favorite comp that you want to see, or are you just here to vibe?
Ooh, well, Nepal, I think people have a lot of different opinions on Nepal. There's definitely 3 different submaps, and they play very differently. But I think overall, Nepal is pretty favorable for kind of a brawl comp, whereas on Sanctum, you can run a little bit more of a poke. Luckily, both these teams, they do like to run more of a brawl comp, but of course, Jokes and the Rein or Sig Brawl are a little bit different, so it'll be really interesting to see what these teams pull out tonight.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm going to be looking at is to see what kind of look we get from that Junker Queen composition in particular. We've seen, like, the Genji Sojourn before, but we've also seen Bastion iterations, a little bit of Sim mixed in. Obviously, you're relying on players who know how to properly use the teleporter to get good value from those kinds of changes, but no matter what we're going to be going into, I think it will probably end up defaulting to a Sigma composition look for Phantom Wind themselves, because whilst the Reinhardt can into the Jungle Queen, if you're playing it alongside Bastion, there's so much incoming damage at all times that I'd be surprised if they didn't default to running something a little bit more poke-centric. But as you say, these kind of submaps on Nepal, pretty much aside from Sanctum, very brawl favored, so let's see what they roll out on as we get into map.
All right, we are going into the map, and now we get a bit of a preview to see what these teams are rolling out on. So as we mentioned, Phantom Wind really looking like they favor the Sigma comp. I see Lazy Turtle is on the Life Weaver, probably trolling us. Assume they're going to move over to Lucio.
Yeah, always do a little bit of trolling for the casters at the start. You know, make them think that, you know, maybe we'll get the Life Weaver this time. But no, going over to the Lucio, something safe and sound. Los Rancheros sticking with a very classic Jotes look. Lucio and the Kiriko involved. We've not seen the Kiriko too much lately. Her overall healing strength has been reduced compared to when she was hard meta, so not the typical look from what we see on Jungle Queen comps nowadays, but I'm excited to see it nonetheless as both of these teams take positions around the objective. Neither one wanting to go onto the point just yet before it unlocks, but we will probably see them engaging in pretty soon.
Yep, what's really interesting is we just saw the team split map there, so they're playing on opposite sides of where they spawned in from. Right now, I think it's going to be a little bit of a poke phase before we, look for those cooldowns, look for resource trades before engage. So here we see Los Rancheros use Shout to engage onto Phantom Wind, and now they are getting the picks because they have that really strong upfront brawl.
We saw the way that Phantom Wind were trying to play around this Sigma's range, right? They wanted to take the high ground initially, and then when Los Rancheros engaged up onto that high ground around the side of the point, they fell back, curved around, took the objective itself, forcing Los Rancheros to rotate again. But Serenity getting caught out a little bit early on that Baptiste forced regen and Lamp early on, meaning that Phantom Wind had no sustain to last them for the rest of the fight, and Los Rancheros were just able to clean up off the back of that.
Wow, that's a huge pick from Phantom Wind. So Davion gets the pick on Jorge, and so we are fighting a 5v4 advantage. I bet we're gonna see Phantom Wind really pushing that, and we can see them engaging, getting the pick on both ports. And now it's only the JQ left to stagger on point.
It'll be a nice little flip here from Phantom Wind. They haven't made any compositional changes. I was curious as to if they would decide against the Sigma Lucio BAP, but they've gone with what they're comfortable with. Personally, I think that's safe. We were talking about the kind of weaknesses that the Rhine can present if Los Rancheros decided to make swaps themselves. So sticking on something comfortable and secure for the remainder of this objective is going to be a nice pick for them. Los Rancheros are going to be coming up on their own ultimates, though, into Davion's Flux, so how they respond to this is going to be very important, as Lazy Turtle does not have Sound Barrier yet. We're probably going to be seeing a prolonged poke phase as this Lucio tries to build up for it ahead of time.
And we're seeing Los Rancheros flip map yet again. They've done almost a 360 around the entire map, and right now we have Davion using his Flux, unfortunately not able to get a pick, and he actually loses his Lucio. The lamp is used as well, and then is pulling out the blade to try and turn this fight around, and looks like Phantom Wind is winning out this fight.
That was a little bit tragic there for a second. Lazy Turtle managed to get the boop onto Cloven, who would have gone into the abyss, and then Davion pulls them back out with the Flux. The Suzu comes out to stop that Jungle Queen immediately dying. Venino's Blade was the only thing there that managed to turn that fight around, but that was a pretty big ult investment from Phantom Wind. Overclock from Los Rancheros, traded for both Blade and Flux, is pretty significant, especially considering you've got to go into Rush and Beat and also Rampage. You're looking at a bad fight.
Alright, so we see Cloven push past that window, which is pretty good, but that window is pretty strong, and it's turning into a messy fight. And Marika pulls out the overclock and clutches it out. And with that, Phantom Wind actually holds onto the point, and I'm expecting them to be able to full cap here.
An incredibly good overclock there from Marika to be able to turn that around. This was the play that Los Rancheros mentioned that they were scared of, and you can understand why now. Los Rancheros went into that fight with the advantage, but they didn't even pull ultimates. They're ending the round here with Beat, Rampage, and Blade still in the bank. Phantom Wind cycling ults really efficiently there to look for the opening pick early on, forced Los Rancheros to play at their own pace, and at that point, when you've only got 10% left to get back to the objective and still battling against respawns, you just don't have enough time to be able to close in quickly enough. I wonder if Los Rancheros are going to make any kind of compositional switches here. We're seeing Ice Cream hover over the Sim at the moment. Maybe Cloven going over to the Reinhardt. If they do play this Reinhardt composition into the Sigma, I think this will be more favorable for them. We were talking about how Sigma isn't that strong against these Sim teleporter rotations, but Phantom Wind themselves may be going to be doing a sort of mirror here. Teams have understood that, yeah, maybe this Rein Mei Sim is just the safer thing to go. Will any of them switch away from the Sim, is my curiosity. Unlikely, but no. We're going to be sticking on it for now.
Right, quite interesting. It's almost like they've read each other's minds and they're running the mirror. Phantom Wind gets the stronger wall first, and so they have point control. And the thing with this brawl comp is it's going to be really hard to dislodge, but Los Rancheros gets the pick on the whole team. That was great patience right there, and they end up winning the longer fight.
Both lamps forced out early, but you can see the ult difference from Los Rancheros. Pestilence just able to sustain the team for longer because Serenity went down a little bit early. Again, similar to what we saw at the start of last round. Just meant that they were able to keep going for a little bit longer, chunk in more damage, and at the end of the day, when it's brawl compositions and you're just mashing faces, that's really the winning factor if you're not getting huge advantage off teleporters or walls. Now it's up to Phantom Winds to try and dislodge this composition that you mentioned was going to be so difficult to get rid of with those Sim turrets, teleporters, and Rhine shield all set up in position.
Exactly. There's certainly a lot of spam going on, and that's the thing about this village submap, is once you have point control and this kind of grind brawl, it's really hard to dislodge. And so, wow, look at that. Cloven goes for the shatter there, gets a 5-man, easy team wipe.
I mean, I'd like to imagine that Davion probably could have blocked that, but hey, you know, I'm not gonna call it one way or another. Earthshatter invested, and when you get a 5-man off the back of that, building up to 50% now on the objective, that's a huge investment. You managed to just get, like, nice, easy, Shatter comes down, full team wipe, you didn't have to expend anything more, and it means that they get to keep window, which Phantom Wind still don't have or any response to for this next fight.
Right, so they, with that ult advantage, they window early, they get the pick on the back. There's basically no way that Phantom Wind's going to be able to win this point. There's just not enough sustain to keep this entire team up without their BAF. Los Rancheros does invest the sim wall, probably didn't need it there. As a result, Phantom Wind does have to back off.
Yeah, Phantom Wind, they're hiding that one nicely. They didn't want to lose any more members than they already had, and it lets them re-engage early here with their own Shatter, Blizzard, and Photon Barrier. They've got 5 ults on the table, but Los Rancheros still have beat to respond to.
Wow, there goes the Shatter, the beat, and the Mei ult, everything's thrown in here, and so this is a heavy ult investment. Phantom Wind knows this is probably last fight territory, so they're really throwing everything in. Okay, they get the first pick on the Mei. They should be able to cap this point. I think let's see what happens here. All right, Cloven gets that big Shatter, and they end up clutching it up and not letting Phantom Wind get a single tick on this point.
Serenity finally manages to build up to window after going down early at the start of those fights so consistently. It took a really long time to build that Bapple, which usually you can expect to be built incredibly quickly. But yet again, Davion just apparently not being able to block these shatters that Cloven is throwing in. Another 4-person shatter means that Cloven is just able to clean up. The window is no threat if no one can shoot through it. And that just lets them close out. Even though it looked like they had to give up the objective for a little while, they were able to re-engage really efficiently. Phantom Wind, they had the ultimate advantage overwhelmingly. Lazy Turtle came up with a really nice sound barrier there to try and dislodge Los Rancheros' Blizzard, but even then, it just wasn't enough. They weren't able to find the cleanup and the kills, and we're seeing them going back over now to this Sigma composition, which just seems to be much more comfortable for them. Los Rancheros, on their part, when they said that they were only really going to run Junker Queen, looking very strong on the Rhine composition that we were talking about Phantom Wind preferring.
Right, I agree. That Rhine comp did look super strong for Los Rancheros, so we'll have to see if they can play Jotes a little bit better on this map. Right now, Phantom Wind gets the point control first because they have the sim advantage, and so Los Rancheros is just playing slow, playing that poke, waiting for cooldowns to come out, such as that, waiting for that lamp to come out before they engage with Shout. But unfortunately, they've lost the Lucio, they've lost the speed, they're going to have to stabilize and wait for their Lucio to come back.
Venino went down low incredibly early in that fight, forced the lamp from Serenity early on. Pothos got a little bit overexcited seeing that cooldown was already out and went for the engage, but immediately got picked off. Seeing a similar thing now, though, as Lazydill goes down to the hands of Ice Cream as they go for the re-engage around the side of point.
Oh wow, that was a huge pick there on the Lucio, and as a result, Los Rancheros, they can use that Shout to engage. They take down the back, and that's just a huge advantage. When your back line's down, you're gonna have to give up that point.
roughly equal ult advantage across these two teams here. The main ones that we're looking at are the Sound Barrier and your Flex Support ultimates, the Kitsune Rush as opposed to the Window. Cloven a little bit further ahead on that Rampage compared to the Flux, but if you're able to respond with a decent Lamp or Beat or pretty much anything, you're not too worried about that overhealth unless the remaining members of Los Rancheros can push in alongside it. So as we get into this poke phase, it's just about which teams are going to be able to pull ult first and find the best value from them.
Yep, and we see that right here. We see both the Window and the Kryy ult come down, and right now it looks like Los Rancheros has the advantage. Kryy ult is super strong. It's the wide AoE. The entire team can play in it, and because they have that Sid comp, there's not really much they can do in terms of just stand there and respawn.
It was a nice little stun out of the Rampage there from Davion onto Cloven, but it still unfortunately caught onto Lazy Turtle. Serenity was the only person to invest in ult there from the side of Phantom Wind, so they can come back in with 4 here, and they look like they want to take it quickly. Photon Barrier already pulled.
Right, so they're using the Photon Barrier to try and block off a lot of that damage. So Phantom Wind really needs to try and turn things around here, but both teams are just brawling on point. Their JQ goes low, they use the Su, and let's see, both teams are pulling out the Sojol, we're pulling out the Blade. It's a bit of a long fight, but Merca gets the first kill on the Genji. But unfortunately, a lot of trades are happening. It's a very messy fight. But Ice Cream is the last person left for Los Rancheros. And so he's just staggering, trying to take up as much percentage as he can. And they get up to 88% while possession ticks over to Phantom Wind.
Both those pulls beat early there to allow both George and Ice Cream to go in early with their own Overclock and Blades respectively, but Lazy Turtle holds on to Sound Barrier for as long as possible, finally pulls at the last possible minute, and that difference between that overhealth just allows Phantom Wind to keep sustaining through it, keep living through both ultimates, no picks found really from Los Rancheros on the back of those ultimates. And they're still finding more now as Cloven goes down early this fight, caught out by yet another good rock from Davion. We're seeing a lot more comfort now on this Sigma as opposed to the Reinhardt, and it looks like Phantom Wind, they want to push ahead. This is a scary thing to do against a team that can go on the mobile very quickly, but they find Pestilence. Didn't quite build up to the Kitsune Rush yet as well, so Los Rancheros, they're looking to be in slightly dicey territory. We're only at 60% for Phantom Wind at the moment, but those aren't the kind of prolonged staggers that you want to see. They're maybe going to get 2 more decent fights left, and they've only got the 1 ult to work with at the moment, and it's their best one.
Right, those were some unfortunate picks, but I'm expecting him to engage with the Kryy ult, and they should have a strong advantage here. Phantom Wind is going to back off. They invest the Lamp and the Window and the Simp Wall, and so this is going to be a bit of a tricky fight, and both teams are really going to be trying to play for picks. We invest the Suzu, Cloven's going low. It's going to be real tough trying to keep your tank up. I know what it's like being that support. It's so stressful, and Ice Cream uses the Sojol, gets 2 picks. They managed to kill off most of Phantom Wind, and they are going to turn this around. All right, this is 89%. I'm expecting them to be able to hold.
Los Rancheros are going to be able to push up close here. They don't want to give any inches to Phantom Wind. I don't think they're even going to be able to touch in time. You can see both the Lucio and the Sim coming out desperately. Last second Ajax from Lazy Turtle. Even though Davion does manage to get here with the ball, you've already lost your Sim and your Lucio. Your Sojourn is low. That is going to be that. You can swing around all you like, but with no one left to assist you on the point, Los Rancheros are going to be able to build up the remaining ultimates if they need them. They do not even. That'll be the end of that. Nepal probably going over. I mean, Phantom Wind, give credit to them. They absolutely are not giving this one up, but they are just trickling in forever. They're not going to be able to turn this around. They have no resources, no utility. That is the end of the map for certain this time. I'm going to call it. It is going to happen, okay? Phantom Wind not able to turn that one around despite their most insistent efforts. 1 map so far for Los Rancheros.
I really like that strong determination for both teams. Looking at all of those fights, I would say these teams were pretty smart about investing the ult and over-investing. And now, some of these plays we're seeing on that second sub-map, super strong tank gameplay from the Rhine, and Los Rancheros gets that advantage. They turn it around from the first sub-map, they figure out how to run the Jotes, and that helps them clutch it up 2-1.
I think on the side of Phantom Wind, they probably would have been able to close out Nepal there, because they had both the Window and the Photon Barrier come up, allowing them to hold that slightly nicer angle around the back of point. They could play around the Mega Pack if they really needed to. They had the nice area for the Baptiste. The Lamp had been forced out earlier, but it wasn't the end of the world. They could have just gone on the aggression off the back of those ultimates, not allowed Los Rancheros to build up to any of their own ults. But because they play it slow and take their time, they're not able to find the picks. So much damage was coming out onto Cloven, but Cloven wasn't really the alpha threat. Ice Cream turns around with the overclock finally built up. If they'd gone on the Sojourn early, they wouldn't have been able to get it out in time, and you would have had a pick. But 5v5, Ice Cream pops the overclock, immediately finds Serenity's head. Again, we're looking at this Baptiste, who is such a key cornerstone of making sure the rest of the Sigma composition can stay alive. The Lucio, I'm starting to think, like, it gives you a slightly faster rotation on these control maps, but realistically, when you're looking at it, it's not the best match for these poke compositions overall. I mean, I'd be looking at maybe like a Zenyatta. If you were wanting to try and run the Mercy Pocket on one of your DPS, you could go for it, give that Sojourn a little bit of extra boost, but as we go over to map 2, which we now know will be Midtown, what will you be looking to see from Phantom Wind in terms of how they respond to what Los Rancheros have been able to put up so far? Because honestly, I think this is quite a nice map for them, being able to run both the Sig and the Rhine.
Right. I think what's interesting, especially with this tier, is that it really doesn't matter what you run. It's just about playing it better. And I think Los Rancheros and Phantom Wind really proved that. Los Rancheros really proved that with both their Rhine Brawl comp as well as Jotes. And you're right, some of those fights, they turned so messy. I think what might be missing there is sometimes some of that target focus, figuring out who you're prioritizing. You should be going after that BAP, right? That BAP is really the cornerstone of keeping that Sig comp up. And so potentially there are a lot of split focus. We'll have to see if they're able to keep it up here on Midtown and turn it around.
Yeah, I think as well we're looking from Phantom Wind and we're saying, like we saw at the end of that last map, they're just not able to close out fights consistently. As long as they have the advantage early on and they win out the poke phase, they're pretty consistently taking rounds, they're taking fights, and when they get it, it's nice. But relying on finding those poke phase picks is just not super reliable. It's an advantage that the Sigma composition has over others, but you're kind of waiting on a misplay from Los Rancheros rather than your own proactive engagements, which, when you're looking at trying to carve a win condition for yourself, being reactive all the time and hoping that the enemy just doesn't respond to what you're doing isn't really the kind of game plan you want to go into. I do think Midtown has that kind of advantage that the Sigma composition is going to be looking for in terms of playing around these longer angles, longer sight lines. We're also going to be seeing a substitution here. Lazy Diddle is going to be out and Zeke Schmurder is going to be in, so we will probably be seeing more of either a double flex support composition, or maybe Zeke is a little bit more comfortable on the Brigitte. Obviously, I'm not super familiar with these teams and their players, so those in chat who want to roast me for not knowing, feel free to do so. That is my bad.
Well, I think what'll be interesting is we're gonna see if they're gonna keep up with the same comps. What I want to see from Phantom Wind is if they're gonna keep the Sig comp, they should really run a Bastion, because that Bastion in turret form is terrifying, especially if they're playing into Jotes. That really stops them from engaging. If a Queen uses shouts, you immediately turret form, the Queen has to back off, and they've used that key cooldown. I think what was challenging on that last map there is Phantom Wind isn't running a Bastion, and so it's really easy for Los Rancheros to just press W and engage. And in that upfront close brawl, the Jotes comp is going to be stronger.
I think there's a certain element to be said about control maps in particular. I think it was why we were seeing the Lucio from Lazy Turtle as opposed to a different support hero. We touched on that, as well as seeing maybe the Sojourn rather than the Bastion, in so much as if you don't play quick on control and you don't take map control early on, you're usually at a significant disadvantage because you've got to push into defender position. When you run the Bastion and the Lucio at the same time, you don't really have a huge peel for both the Sig and the Bastion simultaneously. You're hoping that everyone's going to play super clumped together, but you're also not playing a particularly mobile composition, so it's easy for a Junker Queen to get on top of you. All Los Rancheros would really have to do is try and bait out Lamp. Okay, Lamp's gone, we wait. Even if the Bastion does pop the assault configuration for the shout that Junker Queen can put in, if Los Rancheros are able to get on top of the Sigma, or the Baptiste, or the Bastion, or whichever other DPS you want to run, it's kind of just a favourable matchup for the other team at that point. So, whilst I would like to see the Bastion switch on these more Bastion-friendly maps and poke-friendly maps that Escort and Hybrid provide, I can understand why they maybe wanted to shy away from it whilst they were on control and opted for something quicker. It'll be interesting to see how they adapt going into this, though, because if they decide, actually, you know what, we don't want to run the Bastion, I'll be curious to see what they run instead. Again, Los Rancheros mentioned Merica as the only player that they were genuinely really scared of, whereas Phantom Wind were more like, we're just kind of hesitant about the team overall. So I think no matter what we see Merica play, whether it be a Sojourn or a Widowmaker or a Bastion, I think we're going to be in for a bit of a treat from whatever they're able to provide, because if a team is specifically saying, yeah, we're a little scared of this one, it's usually for good reason, especially when them being common scrim partners.
Yep, and so they definitely know each other really well. And I'm wondering in terms of their strategy, how much are they relying on their typical strats? You know, we're good at shows, we're gonna run it all the time, versus like we know who we're playing, we're gonna try and, you know, run the counter play. We know this player's strong, we know this player's weak, and try and play that and capitalize on that player v player matchup.
I think to an extent that was what we were saying with that Rhine mirror when we went over to Village, right? Both teams kind of recognized that, like, okay, whilst we want to run the Sigma, or whilst we want to run the Junker Queen, we know what the stronger thing to do here is. They probably recognize that, like, okay, well, if we run the Junker Queen here, Phantom Wind are going to run the Rhine, and then we're going to lose, right? Or Phantom Wind go, well, if we try to run the Sigma here, Los Rancheros are going to run the Rhine, and then we're going to lose. So we may as well just default to the mirror. It's interesting to see how they didn't maintain that for the other submaps, because I think, earnestly, it seems like the Reinhardt composition is just the castization tree, right? They're all trying to return to Crab, except Crab is big German Hammerman. So, okay, we're seeing Sigma. I'm not too bothered by this. I think that overall this is a nice Sigma map, but again, I'll be interested to see how this evolves over the course of this map overall. If Phantom Wind are able to just hold the defensive position for a really long time, Los Rancheros is going to go, actually, maybe Ryan with a TP is just the solution here. We can get into their backline early on, immediately take out that Baptiste. We are seeing both Illari and the Baptiste on the backlines here, which is an interesting matchup. It was very strong when Illari was first released. Not seen a huge amount of it since. That shooter comp kind of fell off favor as Orisa was just tuned down a little bit. Some of the supports tuned down a little bit. But as we get into it, our speculation will finally end. And we'll see what the teams have to offer.
You know, we were both wrong, Willow. It's really interesting to see what these teams are running, and they're running a bit of a mirror with some differences on the DPS line, but they're both running a BAP Illari. I have to say, this is giving me tones of Toronto Defiant, because I haven't seen many teams run this kind of backline, but it'll be really interesting as they're running really poke, and so these teams are going to be playing slow, playing from different angles, and looking for those picks. And speaking of America, who Los Rancheros is so scared of, gets that first pick on Potpost, their BAP, and so they're going to have to play a little bit slower and regroup and wait for their BAP to respawn.
Just an easy back off there from Los Rancheros. They're not going to be able to give up too much space because Phantom wins. They still want to be able to push in. Both teams recognize they can't easily aggress onto the other with these compositions that they're playing. But either way, it looks like they're going to want to go hard here, actually. America already going down incredibly low, but regardless, Phantom Wind are the ones who are able to turn this fight around. Vinino picks up Ice Cream and also Pothos at the same time. Find it 3, George going down as well to that Symmetra. You can stun that Sigma all you want, Cloven, but I'm afraid that is not the hero that you need to be marking right now. The Symmetra just able to run wild with that max charge beam. And we're already seeing the ult difference come in between these two teams. Maybe certain heroes like Cloven are finding a lot of ult advantage early on, but look at the difference between Vinino and George Me. Ice Cream and Merica. That is going to allow Phantom Wind to keep playing this defensive position for as long as they want. Photon Barrier is going to be a huge tool for them if Rancheros try to engage in early this fight.
Alright, so Los Rancheros is regrouping. They're trying to take another fight. And looks like ults are coming online, so it'll be really interesting to see what is invested here. I'm expecting the BAP window and the sim wall potentially to be used. And Cloven invests that flux, and they're able to kill off Zeke before he is safe within that lamp. And the lamp goes down, and Los Rancheros is winning out this fight, getting pick after pick after pick. It's just the sim left on point, and this is going to be an easy cap for them.
We highlighted the Photon Barrier as a fantastic tool to allow Phantom Wind to continue playing the defensive position, but Vinino just doesn't pull it. Los Rancheros able to find the pick onto onto Zeke early on. The Illari taken out quite at the start of the fight means that, yeah, the Baptiste doesn't really have much peel anymore. Lamp was already used to counter the Flux, so you just pick off the BAP, and at that point there's no supports left for Phantom Wind. Los Rancheros able to close out first with 4 minutes left on the time bank. Midtown is notorious for being difficult to complete, but if you can go in with that much of a time bank, you're putting yourself in a really strong position to try and do so.
Alright, so let's see how this team takes the fight. Los Rancheros is already sending a couple people on and off angle, and that's the key way to play this comp. You really want to be off angling, but Ice Cream gets that first pick on Serenity, and so they're down their back. They're going to have to play slow, and they're going to have to give up a lot of space. However, they trade it out for it. The Genji, the BAP, and this is a 4v3, and because of that, that's the go sign. Phantom Wind is going to press W, make sure they clean up these kills, and make sure the cart doesn't get any more progress.
those are the picks that Phantom Wind needs to find. They've also built up to 5 ultimates here. Neither team really wants to invest too heavily in these fights because, as we were talking about in the break, both of them are just kind of finding picks in the poke phase and understanding, well, we don't really want to invest in what should be a won fight, and then it turns and they're like, well, we don't want to invest in what should be a lost fight. Neither one wants to pull the trigger because now they both understand if they do, it's just going to be a mess of ultimates all over the board here. The win condition is not easy for either of them, but someone has to start forcing resources out of the opponents. America popping the overclock is going to be the opening move that Phantom Wind want to make.
Alright, America invests that Soj ult early, as well as the Sim Wall. I do have to say, I think it was a little bit early. Even though America slides in with Soj, all of Rancheros is able to kite and turn that fight around without investing a single ult. That's really unfortunate. Phantom Wind invests 2 ults there and aren't able to win that fight, while Los Rancheros is coming up on 5 ults.
An interesting decision is what I shall say from Phantom Wind's behalf to decide to give up all of the defensive advantage, pop 2 DPS ultimates, and just not find picks them. We're seeing Veneno and America actually switch off their respective heroes in that last fight. So maybe they decided they'd had enough. Overclock from Ice Cream, looking to be able to put a nail in the coffin of second point here. Window from Pothos as well.
Yeah, this also isn't finding that much because the ults just come a little bit early, and Phantom Wind is able to kite back and stabilize. After Los Rancheros invest those 2 ults, now we see the Flux coming out, as well as the Alari ult. Oh wow, that's a really big advantage. Los Rancheros is able to get the picks. They do invest very heavily, but we know how difficult it is to cap point B in Midtown, and so they invest 4 ults, and their reward is they do get to cap this point and fight for point C.
Davion had a nice little flux there come out at the start of that fight, caught onto the backline of Los Rancheros, but got stunned out of it by Cloven's Rock. Immediately dropped out of the ultimate. Cloven was able to respond. Rock from Davion already used, not having to worry about the counterplay, the answer back there. And from Los Rancheros, you don't mind investing ultimates there, and you don't mind finding nice little picks there. You just kind of stomping all over Phantom Wind at the moment, who are having to give up space after space after space. There's just nothing here that they can do to stabilize quickly enough to stop Los Rancheros taking the rest of the map.
I have to say, both these hit scan players, both Ice Cream and America, are doing really great in terms of getting these first picks and swinging the advantage. Phantom Wind invests the window to try and stabilize point, and so Los Rancheros invest the lamp, and they have to back off. They've also lost their pylon, and they lose their Alari as well, and so they're gonna have to keep backing off in a losing fight. Oh wait, Jorge is investing the blade, gets 2, but Veneno, even without the blade, manages to get a 4K!
Those are the kinds of dash resets that we like to see from a Genji. An unfortunate blade from George, who decided that, maybe we should give it a go, right? Maybe we just see if we can turn it around. Again, for Los Rancheros, you've still got a pretty meaty time bank. You don't mind just throwing something in to see what works. And from Phantom Wind side, you have to invest both Window and Captive Sun there to try and turn it around. You can't rely on Infrasight to be anything more than a stalling tactic, realistically. So Flux and Blade are your only tools to try and stop Los Rancheros from taking the remaining position that they want to be able to use here. The Sigma wants to be able to play at the kinds of distances that Phantom Wind are denying them from using right now. Setting up for the Blade, we can see the Infrasights allowing that Genji to get the scouting early. Pylon spotted, but taken away. They're not going to allow Pestilence to lose that cooldown. Blade pulled now. Genji goes in, immediately dies.
Oh, wow, look at that. They really had a strong position there when they were using sights, and then going for that blade gets deleted immediately. That's great awareness from Los Rancheros. They get that second pick. Both the DPS from Phantom Wind goes down, and they're about to lose this fight. The best thing they can do is just die around cart and stall it out as long as they can. Now, let's see. Los Rancheros invest the window trying to finish out this fight, but Davion manages to kill 2. Bit of a messy fight, but it looks like Los Rancheros is going to be able to keep pushing this cart.
A couple of little misplays there. Davion being able to find 2 is not great for Los Rancheros, but Pothos as well using the window means that they're not going to have this to try and close the map. Only 20 seconds left. That Baptiste is not going to be able to build up to another ultimate. So that all they have is the overclock and the Captive Sun. Jorge might be able to build up to a blade in time, but Phantom Wind, all they really have to do is stabilize for long enough to build up their own ultimates in response, use lamp decently enough, and you'll be fine to respond to both of these.
Yep, and so Los Rancheros, we still had to back off there because it was a scrappy fight. They lost a couple, and then looks like they're investing the Alari ults, but there's a lot of different picks traded. The Alari ult gets eaten from Zeke, and so there's only a couple people left on point. It's a 2v3. Finals is going to be fighting for his life, trying to stay alive, keep the Sig Cup, but he can't. And so it's just the Sig. He's going to go down after this grasp. And Phantom Wind manages to hold before point C.
We can see America coming back on the cast. He may be expecting some kind of Lucio or Tracer touch, immediately going to magnate them to prevent anything like that, catches them to the Sojourn instead, and like we saw, that whole fight was opened up by that Captive Sun being cancelled out by the Lamp. Serenity able to just keep the remaining members of Phantom Wind alive, even though the picks went either way for a little while there. Phantom Wind just able to build up to their own Captive Sun, even though it got eaten by Los Rancheros. They had to respect the threat that Phantom Wind were able to put up. 2v3, Phantom Wind have the better spawns. It's not surprising they're able to turn that around in the end. It's nice to see that they were able to respond at last, because it felt like every time Los Rancheros were able to find even the smallest advantage up until this point on Midtown, they turned it into, if not a fight win, just a complete point capture. As we see Phantom Wind go onto the attack this time, it'll be interesting to see how they want to try and open up this map, because they have got quite a marathon ahead of them. We were talking about how difficult Midtown can be to complete. It's not surprising that Los Rancheros were perhaps not able to do that fully, but either way, halfway through third is a scary proposition to try and go into.
Exactly. I have to say Los Rancheros did get really far, almost capping point C. Given how notorious Midtown is, we've seen full holds on point A, point B, and C. And so they should be feeling pretty good. They were able to push the payload pretty far. And so both teams are going to keep running the mirror. And let's see if Phantom Wind can push the cart further.
Full mirror here from both teams is an interesting kind of strategy to go for. I was curious to see if we would see any of that Bastion, or that Symmetra, or the Reinhardt, but it seems like both of them are content to just keep running this Sigma poke. Phantom Wind obviously comfortable on it. Los Rancheros have been making it work thus far on Midtown, so if it's not broke, don't fix it. I can't blame them for being like, hey, you know what? We don't need to change this. Phantom Wind pathing in the same direction as we saw from Los Rancheros, but we're looking at Ice Cream. Will they be able to find the same pick that America was able to find to open up?
Alright, so we see Phantom Wind staging and taking different angles, which I really like. However, they do lose their Genji as the first pick, and so they're going to back off and have to stabilize. And what you were saying earlier, you're right. It's almost like these teams agreed not to play Bastion, which I'm sure everyone is happy about.
He's not the most engaging hero to play into, but nevertheless, it does make people play a little bit more honest. As we can see, Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros still in this scrappy poke phase, as both teams don't want to give an inch, but unfortunately they may have to. Zeke's turret going down early, or pylon, rather, my apologies, is just a deployable. Davion going down early, though, on the side of the attacking team is going to mean that Phantom Wind will have to back off, take the attack next time. No exit picks from the looks of things. Ice Cream and Jorge both go low, but the remaining members of Phantom Wind are able to close it out. America, the only surviving member of this team. Just reset and go next. Ultimate's coming online for Los Rancheros is another obstacle for Phantom Wind, but they might have something they can open with themselves if they're able to get some value off of Serenity's window.
Yeah, Phantom Wind is finding it a bit hard to break through this poke comp. The Los Rancheros holding a really strong defensive position and not letting Phantom Wind gain an inch. And so they set up for this next fight. The Lamp already invested. Ice Cream uses the Sojourn ultimate and gets a first pick on America. And so it's looking like Phantom Wind is going to have to off, although they do trade off for the Genji. So we're in a 4v4. They were going to press go. They invest the Alari ult. Los Rancheros counters with the window. Phantom Wind manages to get the pick on the Alari, and so they're going to continue pressing forward. Although this is a scrappy fight, it's turning into a bit of a 3v3 or 3v2. I don't even know who's left, but it looks like they're going to cap the advantage, continue getting those final picks. And wow, what a scrappy fight. Really proud of both teams for believing that it's still winnable and continuing to invest and engage. And Phantom Wind comes out on top and is able to cap the point as a result.
Both invested the window early there, and Phantom Wind immediately just ran over it. Cloven pulls the Flux to try and uproot Phantom Wind, as first is now finally capped. However, Davion manages to trade it back this time. Rock for Cloven on this occasion, stunned out of Flux, and Davion manages to hold it for themselves, knowing that Phantom Wind didn't need it to be able to close out that objective. They come into second with a smaller time bank than Los Rancheros had, but a better ult advantage. This should allow them to stage themselves around this bridge a little bit earlier than Los Rancheros were able to, and close out second maybe a little bit quick. America finding the opening pick onto Pestilence, and also onto Ice Cream. Those are the two cases that we were looking for from this Widowmaker player that Los Rancheros were terrified of. We're seeing it for good reason now.
Right, with those two easy picks, Los Rancheros is going to have to back off and give up this high ground. And on this point B of Midtown, this high ground is so important. It's so difficult for attacking teams to try and get it. But Los Rancheros is coming back, tries to invest the Alari ult, but Davion is too good and manages to eat it. And Phantom Wind counters back with the blade, gets the picks, and they're gonna keep pushing this cart forward. It's gonna come real close to capping point B, and I think they might be getting it here.
Yeah, this should be Los Rancheros having to fall back. Phantom Wind closing out second. That's a really nice time bank for them to now go into third with a whole 4 minutes. This was the kind of comeback we were wanting from Phantom Wind. They now don't even have to push to the end of third. Kind of close, but like we were talking about, that ult advantage that they had going into second, just able to serve them so well. Veneno able to come in with the blade, just finds pick after pick. Los Rancheros didn't have anything that they could really respond with, and Phantom Wind still being able to hold Window, still being able to hold Flux. Infrasight's now pulled, they're going to have Captive Sun again. Los Rancheros have a difficult fight to go into here.
Yep, they've managed to cap with 4 minutes, so they have a long time to push their advantage. And I don't think they even noticed the Genji sitting on top of them, scouting for Phantom Wind. He's still looking for that opportunity, looking for someone to get low before he dashes on them and gets the kill. But just paying very, very patiently. They invest the window. Los Rancheros is going to have to kite back and not peek that. Ooh, the bat almost goes down there, but he dies to the deflect. However, Los Rancheros is able to trade back. They invest the Flux, they invest the Soul Jolt, and they're able to stabilize on point.
2 ults for 2 ults there, not too bad of a fight either way for either team. Los Rancheros obviously don't want to lose that with only 6 meters left on the map. But Phantom Wind, they don't mind giving up window, they don't mind giving up sights, just to see if they can make anything work. I liked how we could see Veneno trying to bait out the attention of Pestilence and Pothos at the end of that fight, but just wasn't able to get it in time, which meant that the window was completely zoned. They're coming in fresh this time. Davion still holding onto this Flux is hopefully going to be the opening tool that Phantom Wind used, but America already found early this fight, and window from Pothos, they want to push them at it.
Yeah. We've been talking about these hit scans all match. And, you know, America's getting the picks. Ice Cream gets that first pick there, and they're able to push the advantage. And so they continue getting the picks. They're able to win out the fight, and they stabilize on point. They just have to hold for 2 more minutes. But it's going to be tricky as some of the ults are coming online for Phantom Wind.
Davion setting up here. We know that this Flux is ready. We know that it's coming out. Gorge also looking here on the Genji to try and find some kind of backline pick. It's no blade. Oh, the Widow and the Genji missed each other. Just didn't notice each other. America finds Genji in the backline. That is going to be your pick potential removed for now. We can see the Ilari and the Sojourn battling it off as the Captive Sun gets pulled by Pestilence. Is not able to heal the Sojourn. Goes down early. Cloven falls. That is going to be your tank gone in the map. Potentially closed out here for Phantom Wind. They do not have far to push, and they've got 90 seconds left. Ultimates were used, but Veneno is going to have the blade ready if they need it. They do not. Phantom Wind able to prevent Los Rancheros from touching right at the last moment. 1-1 thus far. This was the kind of response we were hoping for when we saw that Phantom Wind were comfortable on the Sigma composition.
Looks like we have a very close match on our hands. Both these teams playing so well. And I think what's particularly interesting is it's not even about the ults. It's really about these individual picks that aren't around the ults, and these teams are getting these picks, pushing the advantage, and winning out these fights.
It was really nice to see the way that Phantom Wind, like you say, were taking advantage of any opening they could get. They understood when to respect that actually we can't push too far into this, but their whole method of opening up first was finding that pick onto Jorge and just like going in, understanding that even though it was a 4v4, maybe they didn't have the huge advantage, they could push the aggression nonetheless, see if they could find anything. It's so easy to get stuck on first point of Midtown, just not quite wanting to go in, not being sure if you should or shouldn't. Davion as well, holding the Flux for almost the entire map for just that last fight to see if they could turn it around, finally being able to close it out. It was really nice to see the to and fro and the back and forth, the ebb and flow of these teams, respecting each other, understanding the space that they had to give up, the positions that they had to take. It just felt like that time Phantom Wind, they had the better understanding of how they wanted to play, where they wanted to play, and Los Rancheros, they weren't able to respond effectively enough. This is what we were talking about last map with the Sigma compositions. You can't be just reactive, and it looks like Phantom Wind, they were listening to us. They wanted to understand that they should be proactive this time and took it into their own hands.
right? Both these teams did a great job. Phantom Wind coming out on top. And so I bet both these teams, Phantom Wind's probably feeling really good going into this break, but I bet both teams are really going to be brainstorming hard, figuring out what kind of comps, what maps they should pick next, and how they can capitalize on their advantages.
We will be going to break now. We will see you back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We will return shortly.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to Tranquility. Tonight we have an amazing match on our hands between Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros, two of our top teams in Discord tier. We just saw a very, very close map on Midtown where teams ran the Sigma mirror, and it's going to be quite interesting seeing what strategies are coming out if they're taking advantage of this break to think about how to play differently in this upcoming map.
I'm curious to see what map Los Rancheros want to take us to, because we saw in the Sigma mirror they were able to do it well, but it wasn't necessarily the cleanest thing in the world for them. Phantom Wind just looked more comfortable on the composition, and I think that's understandable when they noted the Sigma comp as being their preferred territory. If they knew Los Rancheros weren't going to be as strong into it, with them scrimming against each other frequently, you can imagine that they're like, okay, yeah, Midtown, comfy for us. We know what we're doing. Los Rancheros taking us over to Suravasa now is going to be a spanner in the works, though. These flashpoint maps are difficult for you to try and run these poke compositions on. We see it every now and then when you're trying to counter sometimes like the Orisa or maybe the Junker Queen, but if you can just run like Rein, Lucio, Sim, or Queen, Lucio, Genji, like I think you're just going to be able to run it through the Sigma comps without too much difficulty. So from the side of Phantom Wind, I want to see, are they going to be able to snap back and answer properly on this? Or are they just going to fall over a little bit as Los Rancheros have the advantage right now?
Yep, I'm really expecting something different to come up for Suravasa. This isn't quite like Midtown with those long sightlines where you can play a lot of that poke and even pull out that Widow. And so I'm expecting a return to the brawl, perhaps Phantom Wind running that Sigma brawl and Los Rancheros returning to Jotes, which does really well with this map, being able to have that strong mobility and get around that map quickly. And so I think we'll have a very, very good, very close map on our hands.
I think Suravasa as well is a nice choice for Los Rancheros because unlike New Junk City, there aren't really any of the sub-points where you're really stretched out, right? A lot of the Suravasa points are really enclosed, tight areas that you don't really want to be playing a Sigma Poke composition into. It really does feel like, I mean, we were talking about this when we were setting up, you know, sometimes teams, are they getting into the mental play of like, oh, I want to be making sure they play on the map they don't like as opposed to the map we do like. And it feels like there is a little bit of that with Los Rancheros here. They're going, all right, if you want to just play Sigma all the time, fine. I'll put you on a map where Sigma sucks. You can't do anything with it. So it's comfortable for them, and it's comfortable, probably less so for Phantom Wind. I'm curious to see they are. Okay, this is an interesting twist, considering Phantom Wind specified the Rein composition specifically as a comfort pick for them. Starting out of the Junker Queen, are they just doing the Hardy Shout, or are they going to stick with this? Looks like they actually want to go with it nonetheless. As we set up for first point here, it's going to be a Junker Queen Jotes mirror. Only the Baptiste and the Kiriko is the differing factors.
All right, so these teams are going to meet on market, which is the first point that everyone plays on. And looks like Phantom Wind gets that first pick on Ice Cream, gets the pick on the tank, trading out a 3v4, but when you've lost your tank, you're probably not going to win that fight. So the only thing Los Rancheros can do is kind of just stall this out or die as quickly as possible so that they can regroup with their team. Now, what I think is really interesting here is while they are running the Jotes mirror, Phantom Wind is opting into a BAP. And so I think that'll be really interesting when Queen ults come online and seeing can Phantom Wind stabilize when Cloven uses Junker Queen ults.
It's also interesting to see that we're seeing Zeke Schmurder and Lazy Turtle in this time. Zeke obviously was the sub in for the double flex support composition on Midtown. We didn't see them play the Baptiste on Control, but it seems like they're comfortable in either way. Having that double flex support option is going to be hugely beneficial here. Both teams just mashing face right now. Shout already used from Los Rancheros, but the pick found onto Pestilence, the Kiriko, that little bit more vulnerable.
Now, both supports have gone down, but Los Rancheros has lost both their supports as well as their tank. It's only 2 DPS left, and so even though Phantom Wind loses a couple players, they are able to stabilize and win this fight out. And so they're ticking up to 72%. If Los Rancheros can regroup quickly, they might be able to get one more fight. But that's the thing about Flashpoint. These points tick up so fast, and so you can only get a couple of good fights here.
As we set up for the last fight that Los Rancheros are going to have on market, they're trying to find anything, but there's no ultimates on the table aside from the incoming rampage and window of Phantom Wind. Los Rancheros, they're fighting into a wall and they haven't been able to find much. Zeke Schmurder is the first to go down, though. That Baptiste taken out of the picture means you don't have to worry about the window anymore. Picks going equal either the way for now. Phantom Wind, they don't mind not investing here because they don't have to win this fight. Los Rancheros, they have to, though, but no ultimates or even really anything has been forced out thus far. Nevertheless, it will be Venino and Davion able to pick it up. Pothos opts into the sound barrier as the only player left alive. A Lucio in a dream, but I think the dream is over. First point market goes over to Phantom Wind as we move over to point 2.
Now, I'm not really sure if that was a fat finger, but that is definitely one of the beats of all time. Patos, the last one on point and invest the sound barrier. There's nothing that they can do except just sit there and watch that point tick up and just die and respawn with their team. Now, Phantom Wind, because they won out that first point, they are going to get advantage and be able to set up here faster. So Los Rancheros is going to have to push into them. And look, we have it. Davion is Cloven invests that Queen ult, but Phantom Wind is able to stabilize as well as trade the picks. They're up 3, and they are able to. Patos just standing there yet again, waiting to get killed so that Phantom Wind can start taking control of this point.
Both teams had the same idea. They used the Rampage to open up the fight, used the sound barrier to respond to the Rampage, but again, we're seeing Lazy Diddle with just the slightly better beats. Pothos able to respond, but just not nearly as cleanly. Nice little deflect from Vino. If you found a kill there, I'd be very impressed indeed. I think we're starting to see the difference at the moment between having this Baptiste and this Kiriko in. The Kryy just doesn't feel able to keep up with the sheer damage output that Phantom Wind brings to the table.
Alright, Jorge is looking for the blade, looking for the picks, gets the kill onto America, but it's a 4v4. Both Sojourns have gone down. Zeke has invested the lamp and goes down, and then Los Rancheros is using Phantom Wind is using their blade, and it's a bit of a messy fight, but Phantom Wind is able to stabilize. And so that's a common theme I'm seeing across all of these maps, where teams are losing players, but yet they're able to invest ult and stabilize or even trade. And so Phantom Wind looks like they're going to win the second point on Flashpoint as well.
Yeah, I doubt Los Rancheros are going to go for a touch here. I think they're just going to set up for the next point instead. Yep. But I believe Phantom Wind might actually have the... Oh no, Los Rancheros have this significantly better random spawn there. Garden is going to be our next point. The ult advantage that Phantom Wind have been able to bank off of for the last few fights is now gone, so Los Rancheros in position to be able to take these fights early, take an early win on Palace, and instead be able to close out this second sub-map. But Phantom Wind already 2 up, so they really can't afford to give up anything here.
Yep, and Los Rancheros with that first ult online, having that strong point control, invest the Kryy ult, and that should all be all they need, and they're able to get the picks and win out this fight, and so they're able to get first point cap on Garden.
This is the predominant strength of running the Kiriko over the Baptiste. Kitsune Rush is just the better ultimate into these maps and with these compositions. Window, very easy to zone, very easy to respond to, very easy to just rampage into and get kills regardless. However, we are now back into the neutral. No windows, no rushes, only Pothos' beat and Cloven's rampage to respond with whatever Phantom Wind want to entrance with. So, for the side of Los Rancheros, their big win condition through that Kiriko is now gone, and they have to make it work in the neutral. This is going to be the pain point, I believe, as Davion sets up for Rampage.
Alright, so Phantom Wind tries to take a different angle to engage on this point, a little bit closer, and Cloven invests that Queen ult, gets 5! And so that's the tricky thing there, because they're running the BAP, they don't have the cleanse. So with the investment of only 1 ult, Los Rancheros is able to win that team fight and cap this point, or continue taking up this point.
If I'm Phantom Wind in this situation, I'm thinking, okay, fine. If we can get them to use at least 1 ultimate every time we can go in, we can just go into our last point, hopefully, with 5 ultimates online and just win 3 fights in a row and then win the map. They don't mind not investing here, and if I was them, I would look to specifically not invest. In fact, they're not even going to go in to try and build ultimates. They're happy to just give this one up, understanding that they don't actually have to push into this. They just need to set up for the next one. They weren't able to force out anything more from Los Rancheros, who are going to have Overclock Blade and Beat to set up for this next fight. However, Phantom Wind, they have the better position to get set up here on Ruins, so they don't have to worry so much. But Ice Cream, with the Overclock, wants to find a pick early.
Yeah, so that's the thing about Flashpoint is while you're walking to point, you can take those team fights. And so Los Rancheros invested Soul Jolt, gets a pick. However, they lose their tank, but Ice Cream is able to get another pick. And yet again, we're seeing investment of ults and trading of picks. And this is I think it's a 2v2. And so we'll have to see who wins out here. But it looks like Los Rancheros, with the Kryy and the Soj, they are able to get the picks necessary and stabilize and cap this point.
This was an incredibly costly fight for both teams, but for Phantom Wind, that was one you did not want to lose. You specifically didn't re-engage. You specifically didn't invest in that last objective because you wanted to go in with 5 and just win this one early on. That early pick onto Zeke, though, meant that they couldn't win it out. Lost Rancheros don't want to give him any space at all, want to engage in again. Window already forced.
Yeah, Phantom Wind invests that window, but it's so far away, Los Rancheros is able to back up and just kite it out. And Phantom Wind tries to invest the social as well to try and get the picks necessary to win out this fight. Los Rancheros uses the Kryy ult, but they've lost 2 members. And so the best they can do is try to get a pick and stall as long as possible on this point, get up as much percentage as possible before it turns over to Phantom Wind.
America finds Ice Cream's head early on, immediately pins it to the side of those ruined walls. Kitsune Rush from Pestilence manages to come out, but there was no follow-through. There was no other ultimates for it to work with, and when you're already in a 4v5, it's just a difficult situation to go in. Davion able to push into that Kitsune Rush, not giving any space at all. Phantom Wind now able to go in, but it's 77% already for Los Rancheros. They only need 1 decent fight here to take the point back. Phantom Wind looking to probably need another 2, and they've got no ultimates in the bank, as opposed to the Rampage and the Overclock that Los Rancheros can pull this time around.
Yep, so there's no ults yet, but we are going to see a Sojo coming up online soon for Los Rancheros, as well as a beat from Phantom Wind. And so they might use the beat here to engage and be able to take aggro. But it looks like Zeke is in trouble. He's going down low, but the team has incredible peel, manages to keep him up. And they're able to get the picks. They use the beat to stabilize. Everyone's playing Ring Around the Rosie, trying to kill the enemy team. Looks like Phantom Wind is going to win it out, and they're going to be able to keep control of this point. And let's see if Los Rancheros can move quickly enough to contest one more time.
I was hoping Davon was going to pull the Rampage there, to be honest. Lazy Turtle used the sound barrier to try and save America, but America goes down anyway. So you're in the open position here. Blade pull from Venino means the opponent is already out early. Ice Cream down 2, Overclock pulled and removed. Venino finds 3 Pestilence dead 2. That is going to be the 3rd submap of this cleaned up. Los Rancheros can try and get there in time. Suravasa going very convincingly in the way of Phantom Wind, and I will honestly say that came down to that second to last fight on Ruins. Los Rancheros continually trying to take the fight longer and longer and longer, turning what should have been a 3-fight opportunity into just 2 fights that they were able to take cleanly. And then Venino comes in with the Dragon Blade, stops them from being able to take that second fight comfortably. When you're playing Flashpoint, you have to respect the fact that the enemy, they want to stagger you. If you don't die immediately with the rest of your team, the cap rate is so punishing, so unforgiving, that you don't give yourself enough time to respond to it cleanly. Los Rancheros find themselves in that difficult position, and even though Davion was able to pull the Rampage before the end of the round, not able to do it before the end of the rest of the team, falling at the feet of Phantom Wind, now 2-1 against Los Rancheros' map pick.
Yep, agreed. Phantom Wind played that map super well. They really pushed the pace there, and I think put Los Rancheros on the back foot a lot. Even though Los Rancheros had the Kryy advantage and had the cleanse, I think their Queen ults weren't able to capitalize on it. I think they were trying too hard to try and get 5 people with Queen ult, but I think you need to look for those 1 or 2 targets that are already low and out of position and get the picks that way. And so we'll have to see. Phantom Wind takes this map convincingly, but we'll have to see for our next map. Los Rancheros is going to be brainstorming real hard, trying to figure out what map they want to pick next and see if they can turn it around.
I would actually like to stick on that Kiriko point, actually, because it's worth pointing out that, like we were saying, in the neutral, the Kiriko is just not as strong. She's not as comfortable as the Baptiste. We want to find those opening moments where you can rampage on anyone who's already low or out of position, but you've already got to chunk through regen burst. You've already got to chunk through the Bap's neutral healing. You've already got to chunk through lamp, and by that point, the Queen is like, okay, well, I've expended shout, I've expended carnage. I don't have half of my cooldowns left to be able to go in with this. I can rampage now, but oh look, Ice Cream's already dead. The Overclock is already gone. I don't have anything that I can work with. It takes so long to stage and position properly when you're running that Kiriko, as opposed to the Baptiste, who can just play more defensively, keep the heal output going, keep the defensive abilities coming. Personally, I think there's a reason why we don't see this classic Jote style anymore. I think there's a reason we see the Baptiste that's played, and I think it was on display on Suravasa in particular. The Baptiste is just stronger when Kitsune Rush isn't in the fight, and as much as I'd like to say that Kitsune Rush was in the fight every single time there, it wasn't. It was there about twice, and one of the times it didn't even work, because you'd already lost someone by the time you got it out.
Right, exactly. I think a lot of those fights were really scrappy. A lot of the DPS and hit scan in particular able to get those first picks. and really swing those advantage. So that's a consistent theme that we're seeing throughout this match. And you know, that's super interesting, that Kryy versus Bat pick. I wonder if it's because their flex supports are more comfortable on those picks, or they really think it's just better in that composition. Because I know on my team, I play in GM, and normally when we're running Oakjotes, we're always running the Kiriko. And so, you know, maybe I gotta go tell my team that I want to play the Bat.
I mean, I am seeing a lot of teams make that transition over to the Baptiste now, because whilst Suzu is really, really nice, you're just not seeing it comfortably played, and I think the neutral is just so important on Flashpoint, where you don't necessarily get a huge number of fights to build ultimates each time. You just need something that's consistent. I think the Baptiste is consistent, if nothing else. As we go over to Esperanza, Los Rancheros' third map. Oh no, sorry, Nepal was a set map. Second map pick of the series. We will be seeing them, I'm guessing, playing more of the Junker Queen. At this point, I think that this is just a comfortable composition for them. I wouldn't want to see them change off at this point, to be frank. Unless they were wanting to go back over to the Reinhardt and try and punish that way. I think the Rhine is a good answer to both the Sigma and the Queen. Esperanza, maybe not the best Rhine map in the world, but it's not like I'd want to see Colosseo and just have 5 minutes of everyone standing around the center point and not really doing anything. So, hey, works for me. I'm glad of it, if nothing else.
Are you asking to remove the glass? Never heard that before.
Look, I'm not
yes,
saying
we are.
they need to, but...
What do you mean? We don't we all love those 5 minute stalls in the neutral? But yes, so we are going to be here on Esperanza. I think what's really interesting is in some previous season and on previous patches, it was really known for a dive map. Lots of Monkey, Ana Break, Sombra Tracer about 2 seasons ago. But now with this new patch, it's really favoring more of the brawl. Dive has really faded away, and so I think you're right. It is probably going to be a lot more of that Jotes we're going to see, and it'll be interesting to see if the teams continue running the same comp with the BAP and the Kryy variant, or what adaptations they make in this map.
I think it's interesting to see how the meta specifically has developed, because the kind of turning point patch was just one that made Sombra a little bit weaker. I don't want to upset all the Sombra mains, but I won't say that she was immediately made turbo garbage, okay? She was weaker, but usable. The key thing that turned it around was Zarya being a little bit stronger. Teams were like, okay, well, we can start playing the Zarya now. And then the solution to the Zarya was the Rhine, or the Sigma, or the Queen, or the Orisa, who was also just giga-busted as the horse usually tends to be. So, as teams decided that actually we can play these varying compositions of kind of brawl, poke, right? Find everything in between. You've obviously got Reinhardt as your classic brawl, and then Sigma as your classic poke, the Queen and the Orisa maybe showcasing something in between with Zarya perfectly sat in the middle. Winston just doesn't feel as favorable now, and with Sombra's rework as well, I think that hard-committed Sombra Tracer Winston dive is just not as comfortable now. Teams don't seem to be opting for it as much as they used to. I mean, obviously in the Overwatch League we saw a full season of it, so I'm not complaining to not see it anymore. But yeah, for Esperanza in particular, it's a really interesting change to see, okay, we've got this map that was classically very dive. Now it's classically very brawl. Are we going to see it be classically very poke? Are we going to see the Sigma mirror again? You know, what are these teams going to bring to the table? We're just waiting on them now to figure out what they want to bring in. We do have a substitution. Los Rancheros are going to be taking out Pothos and bringing in Layla. Pothos has been a ringer for them so far, done very well. Thank you very much. But we'll be seeing Layla in from now on, I believe. What do you think this is going to do for Los Rancheros? Do you think this is going to shake things up, breathe new life into them as they're 2 maps down?
That is true. Sometimes you just need to make a substitution in order to kind of, you know, just change how the team is feeling, maybe change the play style. Now, it's interesting. It looks like Layla's going to play the Lucio, and Pestilence is going to play the Kiriko. And so we'll see if they're going to run anything different. But Phantom Wind is also giving us a preview of Zeke on the Kiriko. And so I'm wondering if they think Kiriko is just stronger on this map, or they liked how the Kryy played last map. But we are going to go into Esperanza. No Sombras in sight. I don't think anyone's ready to pull that out at a map yet, as everyone's trying to figure out how to play her.
It is interesting to see Zeke over onto the Kiriko in particular. I was talking about how I just didn't think it was as strong, and I think that Phantom Wind were able to win Surabasa as convincingly as they did because of the strength of the Baptiste in the neutral. Seeing them go for the Kiriko now, I'm starting to get a little bit worried. I'm thinking, well, you're playing Los Rancheros' game, and they seem to be comfortable on this composition, so it's a dicey position to put yourself in if you're not able to turn this around. Lazy Turtle already found early.
Yep, Ice Cream yet again gets that first pick on the Lazy Turtle, and that's the thing about Sojourn. That one-shot potential, even though it's been nerfed, is still very dangerous. And so because of that, Los Rancheros is able to get all of the picks necessary, clean up Phantom Wind, and they're able to get first control of the bot.
Clean, quick little fight there for the side of Los Rancheros. Nice little pick it up, right? We can see that the Kiriko from Zeke was trying to get a little bit of extra healing in, but Los Rancheros were just able to find all the nice positions early on. Ice Cream just kind of walked at Lazy Turtle and then got the kill. I'm thinking, alright, maybe that was just a bit of a fluff from Phantom Wind not controlling the space in the way that they needed to do so. As they re-engage here, I'd like to see them actually putting some pressure onto these DPS players of Los Rancheros.
Alright, so Phantom Wind comes back for the fight, but they lose America immediately to a knife from the Queen. And so there's the Suzu used, and people are low, but it's a bit of a scrappy fight as teams are trying to stabilize and try to trade pick. Alright, Shout is used. We see that Cloven's looking at the support line of Phantom Wind, but they are, unfortunately, they lose their Kiriko during that fight as well as their Lucio. And so they are going to have to back off here. Looks like Cloven is able to get that Mega, potentially try to trade it out, but I think they might just be staggering. So I think they need to just die quicker so that they can regroup with their team and get another fight.
They've been able to answer back despite Phantom Wind being down 2. Takes out Pestilence. The bleed on Layla was enough to just finish off that Lucio as well. The self-heal from that aura, just not quite enough to keep the Lucio going. And then, as you mentioned, Cloven just staggering out more so than anything else, maybe trying to build up to Rampage, Carnage, but it just didn't really come in too helpful. Kitsune Rush now traded for both teams.
Yep, so both teams engage with the Kitsune Rush. Phantom Wind is able to get the pick on Ice Cream. Davion invests the Queen. Both supports go low. They probably know that Suzu was used, and so they lose their Kiriko, and Phantom Wind continues getting the picks. That was a really good play, investing only the Queen ult and the Kiriko ult, and they're able to get the picks on Los Rancheros, and so they're able to continue pushing the bot, and they'll probably get checkpoint here.
Now you trade out Pestilence's Kitsune Rush and Goragame's Blade for Annihilation? What am I talking about? Completely wrong tank. Rampage and Kitsune Rush instead of Phantom Wind. Lazy Turtle still has this sound barrier to respond to Cloven's as well. Davion, I think, understanding that Layla probably didn't want to invest in that fight, so no beat from the side of Los Rancheros to try and keep them going. They've even got butt scratch and keep going here. This is a nice position for Phantom Wind to be in, less so for Venino.
Yep, Ice Cream counters with the Sojolt, and Lazy Turtle invests a beat while they are down both their DPS. I think that's a pretty tough investment because that is certainly a losing fight. Los Rancheros also invest the beat. They're pretty low in the ult bank. They have no ults coming up while Phantom Wind have both DPS ults. And so I'm expecting, if Phantom Wind plays it well, I'm expecting a swing in their favor.
Yeah, Los Rancheros, they answer back. They've got the overclock, they've got the rampage, they've got the beat, and now they've got Merica as well, who is apparently caught out of position, but Phantom Wind, maybe they thought Lazy Turtle's beat could turn it around. I'm imagining they're just going to back off here as Goragame stages to try and find any more picks, but yeah, that's going to be forward spawn found for Los Rancheros unless Vino wants to try and contest this, but Blade pulled is crazy. What are you doing?
Wow, Phantom Wind played that so well. They try and contest before that point gets capped, and Venino is there with the dash fast enough, pulls out the ult, gets 2 picks, and so great clutch by the Genji to prevent Los Rancheros from getting that cap, and Phantom Wind takes control of the bot once again, invests only 1 ult, and they're able to turn things around.
The half health dry Dragon Blade is not something that I expected to find 3 members of Los Rancheros there who looked like they should have been in a good position to respond to it. Maybe just caught out, assumed that Phantom Wind were just going to give it up, and then surprised by the Genji and surprised by the Blade as I was. Now it's going to be Phantom Wind able to just push for free. They already had the checkpoint capped and push started, so no wait time for them, but it seems like actually they want to take the fight around the mid. They don't want to overextend in the same way that Los Rancheros did. Davion taking the high ground now with this Queen, with the shout already used, may give an opportunity for Los Rancheros to push.
Yep, that was pretty interesting there for Phantom Wind to decide to back off. I wonder if they didn't were intimidated by the position of Los Rancheros, but Phantom Wind gets the pick on both DPS. They lose their Soj, but they get another pick on the Kiriko. It's only the Lucio and the Queen left for the Los Rancheros, and so all they can do is just die on bot, try to stall it out as long as possible. But Los Rancheros is really struggling here. They seem to be losing several fights, and Phantom Wind doesn't have to invest a lot. They're continuing to win fights, and they're continuing to push the bot.
the major disadvantage of these fights being as quick as they are, and to be honest, as frequent as they are, is that Los Rancheros are really struggling to build up ultimates for their support line. Pestion's just now coming up on the Kitsune Rush to match Zeke. Layla still only 66% for the next sound barrier, is going to give Phantom Wind basically a free rampage here. Kitsune Rush already pulled and Suzu to go along with it. Cloven sees an opportunity.
Yep, Phantom Wind uses the Kryy ult there, and they are able to get the first pick, but the whole team is low, and so they're losing members. So Los Rancheros played that really well. They only invested a Queen ult, get Phantom Wind all low, and they're able to finish off those members. Davion investing the Queen ult here and the beat. They think they can stabilize and win out this fight. This Queen is out of position. They're able to get the pick, and it's only a Genji and a Lucio left. Wow, that was so well played by Phantom Wind. They lose two players, but they still think they are good enough to be able to invest the ults and trade it out and win that fight.
And then there we're seeing the real disadvantage of Layla only just building up to the sound barrier. Maybe would have been able to invest in that and turn the fight around in Los Rancheros' favor. At the moment, they're looking to be in last fight territory. Blade pulled early by Koran.
Yeah, correct. Invest the Blade and they invest the beat, trying to get a pick. However, Veneno's Blade is just better and gets a pick, but they trade and it's now a 3v3. Cloven so low, gets picked off. It's only the Soldier Lucio alive for Los Rancheros. Ice Cream gets a pick on Zeke, and so there's only a couple people left for Phantom Wind. It's a scrappy fight, but the Queen is still here, still full health. However, I think the team just needs to back off, try to regroup, and not stagger on their way out. Or they can dive on.
Yeah, I think dying bot is maybe the call they've decided to make there. I believe Davion just got caught out a little bit, too slow on the rotation. You don't mind that too much from the side of Phantom Wind. You've got plenty of time to take whatever position you want to in this next fight against Los Rancheros. They needed that. The forward spawns and the advantage from forward spawn, but, defender spawn advantage that Los Rancheros had was necessary for them to not lose the fight here. Vino, I believe, gets knifed into the backline of Los Rancheros, only just able to get out. They can keep pushing this.
Yep, Los Rancheros takes high ground, which is a really strong position, invests the Queen ult, and gets a pick on America. However, they lose both their DPS, but they are able to trade out for the Kryy, so it's a 3v3. It's pretty close. It's looking a little scrappy. Phantom loses their Genji as well. And Davion is trying to live as best as they can, trying to take down this Queen. But it's a Lucio and Queen versus Lucio and Queen. Both Queen ults are invested. Wow, America comes back after respawning, comes in with the clutch High Noon. Crazy that High Noon gets 2 picks. And Phantom Wind is able to win this out.
I'll be honest, Phantom Wind are taking fights that I don't particularly like, but it feels like they're just outplaying Los Rancheros. Cloven invests the Rampage, but it doesn't catch on to anyone. Davion's doesn't necessarily catch on to Layla, but it catches on to the Junker Queen, and they're able to turn it around. Those are the kind of misplays you can't afford to make when you've only got a minute left, and you have to push over 100 meters to try and get back in your favor.
Yep. Phantom Wind with the ult advantage. They want to win this map and win this map now. They invest both support ults, but they lose their Genji. Los Rancheros in the longer team fight is able to use the and stabilize, and so they're able to get the picks and win out this team fight. Now, I bet Phantom Wind kind of regrets investing both support ults so early and not being able to win that fight, and so they are at a bit of an ult disadvantage going into this next fight.
If there's any advantage, it's that with there being 30 seconds left, it will be an overtime push from Los Rancheros. Phantom Wind are probably going to get at least another 3 fights that they can take, but honestly, I don't think they're going to be able to build up to the next support ultimate, so that might be a pain point that Los Rancheros are going to be able to take advantage of. Ice Cream pulls the overclock, and with the help of Cloven, finds Dinino early on, but looks like that'll be all they get. If Los Rancheros have to keep investing ultimates each time, though, they're not going to have anything left, and they still haven't found forward spawn, but Scratch.
Wow, Phantom Wind, Los Rancheros gets the pick, thinks they have the advantage, but Davion comes out of nowhere, kills Ice Cream, and so the teams are fighting. They're taking this fight, and they think they can win it. However, Los Rancheros is able to get the picks necessary. They invest the critical ult there, and they are able to cap this point. However, they did have to invest pretty heavily. Ice Cream has to come back on the Tracer to come back in time, because it's overtime and respawns take a long time. It's a long walk back. And so Phantom Wind just needs to stay calm, take a deep breath, because they only need to win 1 fight to win out this map and win out the series.
There's no beat from the side of Layla as well. Davion has the Rampage. Veneno has the Blade. We know what these two players can do with them in their hands. This could be the end of the series here as Cloven tries to take the fight a little bit early on, has the Rampage of their own that they want to set up with, but Posturing isn't going to be able to do anything. Blade pulled by Venino. Doesn't find anything. Suzu able to respond, but Tavion sees the opportunity, finds Pestilence and Cloven. Venino able to clean up onto the Lucio, and it's just a Tracer alone on point. As Phantom Wind able to clean up and take Esperanza, and with it the series. GG's come through in chat. 3-1 for Phantom Wind.
Wow, what a great map by Phantom Wind. You know, I would say map 1, map 2 were pretty close, but they really started playing their game and figuring out how to play it better in the last 2 maps. This map, it almost felt like Phantom Wind was winning most of the fights, as well as a lot of fights they should not be winning. And that last fight we're looking at just here, Davion uses that Queen ult, gets almost the entire team of Los Rancheros, and they're able to close out the map.
It was punishment. So consistently was what we were seeing. Just every single time that Los Rancheros tried to set up for anything, they used an ability. We saw Suzu, it was used to deny the blade, and we're thinking, happy days, but Davion also has the Rampage, and you can only block one of those, the disadvantage of the Kiriko. Even though I was talking about the Baptiste being stronger, Phantom Wind just figured, well, if we can outplay their Kiriko, we may as well have our Kiriko just kill their Genji. Every time Gorag tries to go in, the blade from the side of Los Rancheros just not finding as much value. It just felt as though they had Los Rancheros' number. They were starting to play very proactive, which is what we were wanting to see from them back on Nepal, the only map that they dropped. And in response to that, they were also playing very clean in their reactive game as well. Really nice to see Phantom Wind kind of come into their own by the end of that series, and a bit unfortunate for Los Rancheros, who basically said that the Queen comp was going to be their comfort zone. They eventually managed to force it into the mirror, but they lose the mirror anyway. An unfortunate turnout for them.
Yeah, but I have to say, both these teams played super well, and I agree, Phantom Wind, I think, really had the advantage in pushing pace and also being smart and in deciding how to invest the ults and how to turn fights that they had no responsibility winning. So that's something that's going to take them very far. I expect them to continue to do very well in the rest of the season, and as well as see a strong playoff run. But Los Rancheros shouldn't be feeling bad. I think they played really great. A little bit back to the drawing board in terms of figuring out. I think they should do some VOD review. You know, figure out what they could play do a little bit better. But I don't think they should blame themselves. It really wasn't about mistakes. It was just about picks. And so I think Los Rancheros should still be really proud of how they played, and I trust that they will pick it up and turn it around for next match.
Yeah, I think as well, playing with a ringer for the majority of the series and then bringing in your main player just for the last map, it's always difficult to kind of make that adjustment. You're playing with someone who you're unfamiliar with, and then you finally get used to them, and then they're out and you're playing with someone else again. It can just, sometimes you're just not feeling it properly, you're just a little bit uncomfortable. We can see here the map results for the side of Phantom Wind and Los Rancheros. Nepal looked good for them, a strong starting, but I think as soon as we moved away to that Junker Queen mirror, Phantom Wind were just able to respond to it really nicely. We did have the Sigma mirror on Midtown, but Los Rancheros established pretty quickly that actually they didn't want to take that. They weren't as comfortable as they thought. I'm a little disappointed we didn't see the Rhine. I think the Rhine can honestly be a bit of a solution to both these compositions. With neither team seeming to want to run the Bastion as well, I think you were safe to do so if you wanted to. But we got a little bit of a Rhine mirror on Village, and for that I shall be happy enough. And I'm also happy to say that it has been a pleasure to cast with you, Ashen, as we reach the end of our broadcast here. It has been a joy indeed, and I hope everyone at home has had fun. This has been really fun. This has been a really nice series to close out on for myself. Anything you'd like to say to everyone?
Well, Willow, thank you so much for being an amazing casting partner. As someone who's just here for my first broadcast, couldn't ask for anyone better, and I definitely had a lot of fun watching these teams play. I think 2 really great teams. Also, shout out to the whole production staff and everyone who's part of Tranquility. I'm super happy and excited to be proud of this org, and looking forward to much more to come.
We'll see you all next time. Thank you and goodbye. Take care.
All right, have a good night, everyone. See you next week for the next week of matches.
never reach it.